You have been waiting for someone to unlock the door. You have been standing there, patient and good, believing that if you follow the rules, if you suffer correctly, if you wait long enough, someone will finally hand you the keys to your own life. But no one is coming. No one was ever coming, and the door was never locked. We need to talk about freedom, not the kind they sell you in slogans and songs, not the kind that comes with flags and speeches, but the kind that lives in your chest, waiting, the kind you're afraid to touch, because once you do, everything changes, the kind that sits just beyond your reach, not because someone is withholding it, but because you haven't yet understood that freedom is not bestowed, it is seized. You have been playing the waiting game for so long, you've forgotten you're playing. You wake up and you wait. You wait for the right time, the right circumstances, the right alignment of stars and salary and safety. You wait for clarity that arrives like lightning. You wait for confidence to appear before you act. You wait for permission from people who have no authority over your soul. You wait for the pain to become unbearable enough to justify your leaving. You wait for someone to see you, to validate you, to tell you that yes, now you may begin. And while you wait, life moves. Not your life, just life. The life that happens around you, to other people, in other rooms. You watch it through windows. You witness freedom in others and wonder what they have that you don't. Some secret knowledge, some inheritance, some courage you weren't born with. You tell yourself stories about why they can and you cannot. You build elaborate philosophies around your own paralysis. You make your cage into a theology. This is what we do. We stand at the threshold of our own lives and we wait. We wait so long that waiting becomes our identity. We become good at it. We become righteous in it. We point to our patience as evidence of our virtue. We mistake our fear for wisdom, our inertia for loyalty, our silence for grace. And beneath it all, beneath the local story we tell ourselves about why we stay put, there is something else, something we don't want to name. It is easier to wait than to choose. It is easier to be a victim of circumstance than the author of your own disappointment. Because if you wait, if someone else is supposed to free you and they fail to do so, then the responsibility is theirs, the blame is theirs, the life you didn't live, that's on them. Your father who didn't see you, your mother who couldn't love you right, your partner who won't change, your boss who won't promote you, the system that won't bend, the world that won't make room. And yes, they have failed you. I won't take that away. The world has been unfair and your wounds are real and the things that were done to you. They matter. They shaped you. They limited you. They built walls around what you believed was possible. This is true. But here is the other truth, the one that sits harder in the mouth. At some point, you picked up the tools and kept building those walls yourself. We inherit our cages. This is not in question. We are born into structures not of our making, into families with unspoken rules, into cultures with ancient scripts, into systems designed to keep some people small. We inherit trauma and we inherit silence. And we inherit the belief that our place is fixed, our role is written, our life is something that happens to us rather than something we create. These inheritances are real. But inheritance is not the same as fate. You carry voices in your head that are not your own. They tell you who you are and who you can never be. They tell you what is possible for people like you. They draw lines around your life and call them horizons. And for a long time you believed them. You had no reason not to. These were the voices of authority, of love, of experience. Your parents who wanted you safe. Your teachers who wanted you realistic. Your community that wanted you to belong. They meant well. Most of them, they were only passing down what was passed to them. The boundaries, the warnings, the small. Careful life that keeps you breathing but barely alive. You learn to move inside those lines. You learn the shape of your cave so well you stop feeling it. You learn to call it protection, to call it wisdom, to call it home. And maybe it was for a time. Maybe you needed those walls when you were young, when you were learning to stand. But you are not young anymore. And the walls that once protected you now imprison you. Here's what no one tells you. There comes a moment when victimhood becomes choice. Not in the beginning you are a victim truly, acted upon by forces beyond your control. But somewhere along the way, if you are not careful, if you are not honest, victimhood stops being what happened to you and becomes who you are. It becomes your identity, your explanation, I excuse. It becomes the reason you cannot move, cannot change, cannot take what is yours. And the terrible gift of this is that you never have to risk anything. You never have to try and fail. You never have to face your own capacity for cowardice or self-betrayal. You can simply point to what was done and say, this is why I am not free. But you know, don't you? Somewhere beneath the story, beneath the justified rage and the righteous hurt, you know that you are complicit in your own confinement, that you have been making yourself small for so long. It has become automatic, that you have been swallowing your words, dimming your light, shrinking your dreams, not because anyone is forcing you to anymore, but because the pattern is carved so deep, you follow it without thinking. You know that the lock on the cage is on the inside. You have always known. This is the hardest truth. Not that you were wronged, you were, but that you have continued the wronging, that you have taken what they started and you have finished it, that you have internalized the oppressor, made a home for them inside your own mind, given them a throne from which to rule your life. And from that throne, they don't need to be present anymore. They don't need to actively subjugate you. You do it to yourself. You police your own boundaries. You silence your own voice. You punish your own expansion. We do this because it feels like loyalty. We do this because freedom feels like betrayal. To become free is to admit that the ones who loved you were wrong, that the culture that raised you was limiting, that the God you were given is too small. To become free is to step outside the circle, to break the covenant, to say the unsayable. I will not carry this anymore. I will not shrink anymore. I will not live in the shape you made for me. And this feels like violence. It feels like abandonment. It feels like the worst kind of selfishness. So we stay. We perform our smallness like prayer. We think we are being good. We think we are being loyal. We think we are protecting the people we love from the shock of our transformation. But what we are really doing is avoiding the truth that freedom requires courage. We are not sure we have. That to be free, we will have to disappoint people. That to be free, we will have to stand in the rubble of who we used to be and not know yet who we are becoming. You keep waiting for permission because permission means someone else takes responsibility. If they say you can go, then going is not your fault. If they release you, then you did not abandon them. If they bless your leaving, then you are not the villain of the story. But this is magical thinking. This is a child's logic. No one is going to give you permission to outgrow them. No one is going to hand you the freedom to become someone they don't recognize. No one is going to bless the journey that leaves them behind. The people who need you small will never tell you to grow. The systems that benefit from your compliance will never hand you the tools of rebellion. The voices that have governed your life will not voluntarily relinquish their power. The parent who made you responsible for their happiness will not suddenly say, "Go, be free, I'll be fine without you." The partner who needs you broken will not wake up one day and want you whole. The job that extracts your soul will not give you permission to want more. The culture that requires your silence will not invite you to speak. You are waiting for an invitation that will never come. You are waiting for approval that would negate the very thing you seek. Because freedom, real freedom, is not something anyone can give you. It is not granted. It is not earned through good behavior. It is not a prize for suffering correctly. It is taken. It is claimed. It is seized from the jaws of a world that would prefer you domesticated and small. And this is terrifying, because taking your freedom means admitting you always had it. It means admitting you have been collaborating with your own captivity. It means you can no longer blame them, whoever they are, for the life you are not living. It means stepping into the vast cold space of self-determination where there is no one to tell you what to do, no one to blame when it goes wrong, no one to carry the weight of your choices but you. Freedom costs everything. Let's not pretend otherwise. Let's not dress it up in inspiration and make it pretty. Freedom costs the relationships that cannot survive your transformation. It costs the version of you that everyone knows and expects. It costs the comfort of the familiar cage. It costs the community that loved you, conditional. It costs the approval you have been chasing since you were small. Freedom costs your smallness, and your smallness has been your strategy for survival. To let it go is to stand naked in a world that suddenly has no idea what to do with you. Some people will be angry. They will call your freedom selfishness. They will say you've changed, and they won't mean it as a compliment. They will mourn the you that served them, the you that was predictable, the you that made them comfortable. They will feel betrayed because in becoming free, you have held up a mirror to their own captivity. Your liberation is an accusation they didn't ask for. Your expansion makes their smallness unbearable. So they will pull at you, they will guilt you. They will remind you of all you owe. And some part of you will want to return to the cage because at least there you knew who you were. At least there you were loved, but you were not loved. Not really. You were needed. You were needed. You were useful. You were safe. But love does not require your diminishment. Love does not ask you to stay small so someone else can feel big. Love does not make you choose between your freedom and its presence. What you had was not love. It was arrangement. It was transaction. It was a bargain you made when you did not know you had another choice. And now you know. Now you stand at the place where knowing becomes doing, where awareness becomes action, where the life you want waits on the other side of the boundary you must draw. This is the threshold. This is where most people turn back, because the knowing is one thing. You can know you are caged and still. Stay caged. Knowing costs nothing. But taking, claiming, seizing your freedom that costs everything. That requires you to reach through the fear, through the guilt, through the voices screaming that you are wrong, that you are selfish, that you are breaking something sacred. That requires you to say the words you have swallowed, to move the body that has been frozen, to make the choice you have been avoiding, to draw the boundary, to leave the room, to say no, to say yes, to stop explaining yourself to people who have no intention of understanding you. Taking your freedom means you stop negotiating with your captors. You stop trying to make them see why you deserve to go. You stop building the case for your own liberation as if your life is on trial and they are the jury. You stop performing your suffering to prove it is real enough. You stop waiting for the pain to become unbearable enough to justify your leaving, because the truth is, for some people, no amount of pain justifies choosing yourself over their comfort. For some people, you could be dying and they would still ask you to die quietly. So you stop asking, you stop explaining, you stop waiting, you take. Not in violence. Do not confuse freedom with domination. Taking your freedom does not mean taking from others. It does not mean oppressing in return, punishing in return, becoming in return the thing that hurt you. Taking your freedom means reclaiming what is yours. Your voice, your body, your time, your life, your right to move through this world as a whole person. It means establishing sovereignty over your own soul. It means saying, with your actions more than your words, I will no longer be governed by fear. I will no longer make myself small to make you comfortable. I will no longer live in service to your limitations. And you do this in the small moments first. You do this in the morning when you wake up, and you do not immediately reach for the phone, for the distraction, for the numbing. You do this when you speak the truth instead of the pleasant lie. You do this when you honor your own needs even when no one else sees them. You do this when you say no without apology. You do this when you let someone be disappointed in you and you do not crumble. You do this when you make the choice that serves your freedom even when it serves nothing else. Freedom is not a destination. It is not something you achieve once and then possess forever. It is a practice. It is a daily reaching. It is a decision you make again and again in 1,000 small moments. It is the moment you choose honesty over harmony, the moment you choose growth over comfort, the moment you choose your integrity over their approval, the moment you stop betraying yourself to keep the peace, the moment you remember that peace bought with your silence is not peace at all. You will be afraid. This is not something you overcome. This is something you carry. You will take your freedom and you will be terrified. You will doubt yourself. You will wonder if you are wrong, if you are selfish, if you are destroying something good. You will want to go back. You will miss the cage. You will romanticize your captivity and forget why you left. This is normal. This is human. This is the cost of liberation, but you do not let the fear stop you. You let it walk beside you. You let it walk beside you. You say, yes, I am afraid, and I am going anywhere. Yes, I am uncertain, and I am choosing anywhere. Yes, I may be wrong, but I will not know unless I try, and I am so tired of living in the prison of not trying. And here is what you will find on the other side of the fear. There is not the disaster you imagined. There is not the abandonment you were promised. There is space. There is breath. There is the strange, disorienting lightness of living in alignment with your own soul. Some people will leave. Some bridges will burn. Some versions of yourself will die. But what remains will be real. What remains will be yours. What remains will be the life you actually chose instead of the life you inherited. You will also find loneliness, not the loneliness of being alone, the loneliness of being free in a world of captives. The loneliness of seeing clearly when everyone around you is still asleep. The loneliness of outgrowing the rooms you used to fit inside. This loneliness is part of it. It is the space between the life you left and the life you are building. It is the wilderness you must cross. And in that wilderness, you will meet yourself. Not the self you perform, not the self they needed you to be, but the self that has been waiting beneath all of it, patient and wild and unbroken. This is where the work begins. Because once you have taken your freedom, once you have stepped outside the cage, you must decide what to do with it. And this is where many people falter. They confuse freedom with the absence of constraint. They think freedom means doing whatever they want, taking whatever they desire, living without regard for consequence or connection. But that is not freedom. That is just another kind of prison, one where you are both captive and captor, where you are enslaved to your impulses, where you mistake selfishness for liberation. Real freedom requires responsibility. It requires you to carry the weight of your choices. It requires you to reckon with the consequences of your action. It requires you to ask not just what do I want, but who do I want to be? What world am I creating with my freedom? How am I using this liberation? Am I hoarding it, protecting it, keeping it only for myself, or am I extending it, offering it, creating conditions in which others can also be free? Your freedom is not complete if it requires someone else's bondage. Your liberation is not real if you simply swap places with your oppressor, if you take your freedom and then build walls to keep others out, if you escape your cage and then patrol its perimeter to make sure no one else escapes, if you claim your voice and then use it to silence others. That is not freedom. That is just the reproduction of the same violence that once held you down. True freedom makes freedom possible for others. It moves through the world creating space, opening doors, breaking chains. Not in some grand, heroic way though. Sometimes it is that. But mostly in the quiet daily way you live, the way you refuse to shrink, the way you honor your own boundaries so others learn boundaries are sacred, the way you speak your truth so others know truth can be spoken, the way you choose yourself so others see that choice is possible. Your freedom is testimony. Your liberation is permission for those still waiting to take theirs. But you cannot give someone else their freedom. This is crucial. You cannot liberate another person. You can only live in a way that shows them liberation is possible. You can only be the evidence that the cage is not absolute, that the story can be rewritten, that there is life beyond the boundary. But they must reach for it themselves. They must take it themselves. Just as no one could give it to you, you cannot give it to them. And this is painful. To watch people you love remain in bondage, to see them suffering in cages whose keys they hold, to know what they could have if they would only reach, but you cannot reach for them. You can only stand outside and call to them. You can only keep living, keep being free, keep showing them what is possible. The rest is theirs to do. And you must live with this. You must live with your freedom in a world that is not yet free. You must navigate the gap between your internal liberation and the external structures that still seek to contain you. Because becoming free inside does not mean the world stops trying to oppress you. It does not mean the systems change or the injustice ends. It means you change your relationship to them. It means you move through the world no longer governed by their definitions. It means you refuse to internalize what they project. It means you find the freedom that exists in the space between what they do to you and who you choose to be in response. This is the freedom that cannot be taken from you. Not the freedom of circumstance that can be stripped away in a moment, but the freedom of the soul, the freedom of mind, the freedom to stand in the middle of constraint and still know yourself as whole, to be in chains and still be free, to live under oppression and still refuse to be broken. This is the freedom that matters most. This is the freedom that liberates not just you, but everyone who witnesses it. So you live your freedom like a light in the dark. You live it unapologetically. You live it imperfect. You live it as both gift and responsibility. You do not apologize for taking what is yours. You do not shrink to make others comfortable. You do not live in service to the smallest they need from you. But you also do not weaponize your freedom. You do not use it to dominate, to exclude, to elevate yourself by diminishing others. You use it to create, to love, to build, to heal, to make the world a little more free for your having moved through it. And here is where we land, you and I, at the end of this long meditation on freedom, not at a conclusion, because freedom does not conclude, not at an arrival, because freedom is not a place, but at the truth we've been circling this whole time, the truth that sits in your chest even now waiting. No one is coming to free you. Not your parents, not your partner, not your boss, not the world. They're not coming, because this is not theirs to do. Your freedom is not their responsibility. It is yours. It has always been yours. And the door you have been standing in front of, waiting for someone to unlock it, was never locked. The key was always in your hand. You have been holding it this whole time. You just needed permission to use it. But that permission does not come from outside. It comes from you. So I am not here to give you permission. I am here to remind you that you don't need it. I am here to name what you already know, but have been afraid to believe. I am here to tell you that freedom is not given. It is taken. And it is yours to take. Right now. In this moment. In the next moment. In every moment you choose to reach beyond the boundary. To speak beyond the silence. To live beyond the limit. The life you want is waiting, not somewhere far away, not in some future version of yourself, but right here, on the other side of the choice you keep not making. And the choice is simple, even if it's not easy. The choice is to stop waiting, to reach, to take, to claim what has always been yours. Your freedom's a birthright. You must claim again and again, so claim it. Not someday, not when it's safe, not when you're ready, now. Reach through the fear, reach through the guilt, reach through all the voices telling you no. Reach toward the life you were born to live and take it in both hands.